Welcome to More Than a Lawyer with your host, attorney Christy Crow. This is a podcast that highlights the amazing acts of service that lawyers perform all over the country. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, www.jinxcrow.com. Now here's the host of More Than a Lawyer, Christy Crow.
Welcome to More Than a Lawyer. We're so glad to have you back with us here today. And we're also super excited to have with us here today Laura dePaz Cabrera. Laura is an immigration attorney down in Gainesville, Florida. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you here with us. And before we get to talking about what you do outside the courtroom, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your practice and what you do in your daily practice at it is 352 Immigration is the name of your firm, that's correct?
That's our website. It's dePaz Cabrera Immigration Law. But our website it was a long website title to put the full name. So we're 352 Immigration. 352 is just the area code that we're in here in Gainesville.
Oh, fun. Well, that's a great way to make it memorable. So you're in Gainesville, Florida, and tell us about your immigration practice.
So we do all that has to do with immigration law, which is very complex, especially Laura 1.0 did not do immigration law and couldn't appreciate the complexity. But we do a little bit of everything here, with the exception of very, very few immigration processes that we don't deal with. But we help, whether it's individuals, families, companies, navigate the ever complex immigration system here in the U.S. to kind of achieve their immigration goals. So whether it's someone seeking a green card based on marriage or based on a family relationship, someone who's immigrating from abroad, businesses that are trying to get top tier talent to fill vacancies that they need filled and aren't being successful locally, we help initiate the process. We guide them through, whether it's Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, consulates and embassies abroad, to achieve their immigration goals. It's not for the faint of heart. It's constantly changing. It's like an ever-changing puzzle, and all the pieces that were corners yesterday are no longer corners today. But we love it, and we really feel a sense of satisfaction and joy being able to help our clients achieve their immigration goals.
It is really a great area of the law to practice. I don't practice in it very much, but I had a friend who needed some help with an issue, and long story short, because immigration lawyers can practice anywhere, there was a lawyer that I knew down in Florida that did the immigration work, but when it came time to go to the hearing in Alabama, he asked me to go to I guess it's not really a hearing, but it's a meeting with the immigration folks. And my friend got his green card, and it was such a great day for him and his family because he'd been here a long time, and just having the certainty of knowing that he could stay here, not have to worry about it, was so meaningful to me because of that relationship. So to get to be able to help people do that all day, every day, has to be amazing.
100%. I say Laura 1.0, but I used to do insurance defense work in the insurance coverage world, doing construction defect litigation, which was challenging and fun as well. And there is honor in making sure that your carrier isn't paying more than their fair share. So, but I was dealing with adjusters all day, and my wins were saving an insurance company money, which, again, not to poo-poo the benefit in that and the honor in that and the importance of that. But when I juxtapose that with, like you said, being able to hand someone something that is really a small piece of plastic, but that piece of plastic have such a profound impact, not only on that client and on their identity and on their sense of belonging, but on their family members, on their employers, on the community and society as a whole, is really a sense of fulfillment that at my old law firm, I kind of retired from there. I was completely content doing what I was doing, but knowing what I know now and this feeling of satisfaction and joy, I can't go back to that. Just from a spiritual level, it's extremely rewarding.
Well, that's great, Laura. And just so anybody that's listening that is looking for an immigration lawyer knows this, I think I'm right about this. Even though you're in Florida, you can practice immigration law in any state in the United States, correct?
That is correct. Immigration is federal, so I have clients from California. I just had a meeting 2 days ago with someone in Seattle, Washington, clients outside of the U.S., Mumbai, Colombia, Australia. So that's one of the beauties of immigration law. Anywhere in the U.S., I can represent individuals and companies.
Great. So if someone's looking for an immigration lawyer and found this podcast, your contact information will be in the podcast notes and they can find you with that. But as you know, the purpose of More Than a Lawyer is to talk about all the amazing things lawyers do outside of their practice and outside of the day-to-day practice of law. And so while I could talk to you for this whole podcast about immigration law and learn a lot about it myself, tell us a little bit about your involvement in the Junior League in Gainesville. First of all, for those of us like me who've never been a member of the Junior League, tell us what the Junior League is and how it helps the community there in Gainesville.
So the Junior League of Gainesville is one of many junior leagues across the world, actually. And gosh, it's probably close to 90 years junior leagues have been around. Now, I will say, like you, prior to joining the Junior League, I had a very, very small notion, and it wasn't actually a great one. I had watched The Help, way back when, and the depiction of the Junior League in that movie isn't the best depiction. It's not accurate, but that was my understanding of what the Junior League was. So when I graduated law school, I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida, to a big fat Puerto Rican family that always talked about the importance of community, and it takes a village, and giving back, and just being involved, not kind of staying in your bubble. So I had graduated law school. I took the bar. I was working as a lawyer. At that time, I only had one child, which I think factored into this decision-making process. And I said, I'm looking for something more. I'm looking to now be able, I feel settled. I feel like I've reached what I needed to reach. I'm doing all the things. I'm adulting on a full scale. What's missing, though, is to find a way to be involved with the community. And so I reached out to friends, neighbors, and I'll tell you, there was a woman I used to babysit for. Her name's Kelly Voldre. I've told her this story. Loved her kids, still love her kids. And she had at one point on the refrigerator a Junior League member invitation to some holiday party they were having. And I remember having that connection. Well, Kelly, I know her family. That's not what I would, see in the women in the health that were part of the Junior League. And so it always stuck in my mind. I wanted to be like Kelly. That's the life I wanted. Kelly was a member of the Junior League. So several friends I reached out to, recurring theme among people who I respected and admired, check out the Junior League, check out the Junior League. And so I did. And the Junior League's mission focuses around training and development of women, promoting volunteerism, and making an impact in communities, specifically aimed at bettering the lives of women and children. So I felt completely akin to their mission and jumped right in. I became a new member, learned all about the Junior League, learned so much about Gainesville generally, as having been almost a lifelong resident of Gainesville that I didn't know at that point in time. And after first member year, served on a committee, second year, and then, as happens to many of us, and in my life is a recurring theme, I got asked to be a part of, a chair committee year 2, and then from that chair become the, VP of the community council year 3, and from there, secretary on the board, executive vice president, all these leadership positions, and eventually president, which I was honored to serve several years ago as president of the Junior League. And I'm now a very happy past president advisor. But it really gave a sense of belonging. It gave me the opportunity to network with other women, which I'm really bad about that. I have my husband, who's my best friend, which I know a lot of people can't say, but I'm privileged to be able to say that. As I mentioned earlier, big fat Puerto Rican family, mostly all live in Gainesville. So my social bucket, if you will, was full with my family, and that was fine. And I had a very hard time making connections with anyone outside of my family. The Junior League gave me that, making connections with women of all, walks of life, from all levels, stay-at-home moms, professionals, veterans, people, brand new, college students, all working towards a unified goal, and really receiving fundamental skills in training, in leadership, that in hindsight, you wouldn't think this, but skills that I gained through my time in the Junior League that I've been able to apply to my role as a lawyer. And you'd think it'd be the other way around. You think professionals have more to give a volunteer organization than the volunteer organization can give the professional. And I found that to be the opposite. So from leadership skills, how to manage a team, how to come up with a strategic plan and an operating plan. Junior League women get things done. And I've been honored and privileged to watch the organization through the legacy that we inherited from past members and from the younger members now that are doing incredible things here in our community.
Yeah, I always say if you want to get something accomplished, ask a busy woman. She's going to find a way to get it done and get it done efficiently.
100%.
So I know we are getting into the Christmas season, and I know the Junior League in Montgomery, close to us, has a couple of different events around Christmas. Are there some events coming up with the Junior League in Gainesville that you want to tell our audience about in case someone's in the area or wants to support those events?
Absolutely. So our signature event for our Junior League that we've had for, gosh, don't quote me on numbers, I'm a lawyer, but probably close to 30 to 40 years now, is an event called Miracle on Main Street. Our headquarters for the Junior League until very recently were on Main Street in Gainesville, Florida, which is the oldest part of town, the historic part of our area. And we had an event named after our location, and it was really started as a Christmas toy drive and has manifested into just something incredible. We partner with agencies in the country, in our county, in our area, to identify needs, families in need. So this can be DCF, this can be a Children's Trust, this can be the Children's Advocacy Center, to identify families who may not be able to provide a Christmas to their children. And our elves, as we call them, shop throughout the fall, throughout the summer, even springs, looking for deals, getting grants from Walmart, grants from Publix, to actually have, a Santa's warehouse, if you will. And parents can come, they can give wish lists based on their children, on their, what they'd like. And we shop for them, we wrap their gifts. We have bicycles and helmets. Santa comes, we have a book drive. For the last 7 or 8 years, our focus area for the Junior League of Gainesville generally has been food insecurity. So we've been able to add to just toys and presents, add clothing and add food. So we have shelf stable food baskets that we provide, food pantry items, food cooking items such as, crock pots or instant pots or things that families really have asked for and may need to help with some of those food associated needs. It is a beautiful day, a beautiful event. It's coming up tomorrow, actually, bright and early all morning, and it's usually held in the first week of December. And so it's a tremendous effort. We've got a local church this year that's letting us use their space. Families come, we dress up, we hand over gifts, hand over the food pantry items. It's a lot of work, but it's a tremendous feeling of joy. The letters that we get from families, from children just thanking us. And, we're privileged. I'm privileged to know what it's like to be able to provide for my children. So many people can't. So many children don't know, don't look forward to Christmas the way their classmates may. Don't have the same level just because their family is not in a position where they can, through no fault of their own, provide for them. So giving back, it is one of, we do a lot of things as a Junior League, but that is one of the main events throughout the year. That's really big. That's a huge community event that we're very, very proud of.
Yeah, that's great. And it is a good time of year to think about that and give back. But I know it takes a year-round effort to make something that big happen. So I know you were with a bigger firm before you went out and started your own firm. And it sounds like you've been involved with Junior League for a long time. How did your former firm support you and let you know that it's okay to get away from the billable hours and to donate time to something that was good for your community?
Absolutely. And I was blessed that they very much did. Early on, even with, as a young attorney, you go to law school, you pass the bar, but there are so many intangibles that you still do not know, despite having all those credentials and all the boxes checked, if you will. And so the practice of law in and of itself, you're learning that it's a constant evolution. But then how to be a lawyer, I feel, is separate and distinct from the practice of law many times. And so my former law firm, the managing partner who ended up hiring me, who I became a partner and then was my co-partner, was really my mentor. And she always encouraged me to, she was very involved. Her passion was Pasofino horses. She has a beautiful Pasofino horse farm. She was constantly involved in the association and scholarship programs for the kids. She was showing horses in Ocala, in Kentucky, and all places. And she always made it very clear that in order to be the best lawyer you can be, you need to be a well-rounded individual. You need to be able to have an identity, have a life, and have a purpose outside of just the practice of law, because it can be all-consuming. So she set that example early on. And as my mentor, you emulate what your mentors, the examples that are set for you. So she was very intentional, and I want you to get involved in Inns of Court. I want you to get involved in the Florida Bar's Leadership Academy. We're going to showcase on our firm, website, the extra things that you're doing that aren't just your verdicts and your accolades and but who you are as a person, and really cultivate that. And I was very, very blessed to have that from day one. I started with that firm when I'd been a lawyer for a little under a year. And just that sense of community, that sense of building yourself in addition to what you do as a lawyer has never stopped for me.
That's great. And so when you started your own firm a few years ago, and I know there are financial pressures, you're going out on your own, you're thinking, how am I going to keep the doors open and meet all my clients' needs and make payroll and all the things that are around running your own firm? How did you prioritize, and why did you prioritize service as part of your new firm that you started?
It's funny because when you think of a successful law practice, you think of cases, you think of, at the end of the day, your finances. Are you getting the cases in? Are you getting the clients in? Whether you're contingency like a PI firm, whether you're flat fee or practice area specific estates, immigration and whatnot, your idea of success is the numbers and the volume and whatnot, the achievements. And the traditional way of thinking says, I got to market. I have to, work hard. I have to get good, name recognition, be able to get billboards or whatever it may be, so that I can then turn that into leads coming in and build my successful law practice. I have found that, yes, you can do all those things. You can work on your SEO. You can get a great marketing. You can do all the things. But being in your community and your community knowing who you are, independent of what you've done as a lawyer, but who you are and that you're there. And that starts with being out in your community. A community, you can drive by a billboard, you can see a commercial on TV 100,000 times. Yes, to a certain extent, that's going to give name recognition. Yes, but the credibility, the authenticity, the trust that comes with your fellow community members seeing you out in the community, not necessarily touting your accolades, not necessarily looking great on a billboard around a commercial, but being involved in things that are important to them, making an impact on things that will affect them outside of their legal needs. To me, not only are you helping your community, but you're also helping your law practice. And they go hand in hand. I don't think that and maybe you can be, but I truly don't think that you can be a successful law practice, especially a small firm like we are, if you are not out in your community making those real connections and having that trust and that camaraderie and building those relationships in community are what are going to make your law practice thrive and survive no matter what comes, because you're building that relationship, you're building the trust with the community, and that trust is going to then come back to your practice. I don't think in today's day you have to distinguish yourself. You have to give that value, and that value comes with authenticity and it comes with trust. And the only way I think you can effectively do that in a real meaningful level is to make that connection, to get out there, to be in the community that you're serving, not just a billboard or a commercial in the community that you're serving.
Great advice. And if there's someone listening to this that is a younger lawyer or just maybe an older lawyer that's never really gotten out into their community and found their passion, what would you recommend to them on how to find their passion, how to get involved, and how to serve their community more?
you can go about it a few ways. And I think a lot of it also depends on the type of person you are. Extroverts, they'll find a niche. You can make a connection at a Walgreens or at a, checkout at a grocery store. Folks that might be more introverted or who might just be overwhelmed and burned out and busy, it may be a little bit more difficult to think, where do I go? And I think there's several options. You could find something locally that speaks to you. Now, that could be the Junior League of Gainesville in my case. It could be Stop Children's Cancer. It could be the Humane Society. It could be any number of nonprofits or organizations. Here, there's the Gainesville Latino Women's League. There's the Human Rights Coalition that are important to me, and then also represent a lot of clients that I may have served in the past, or a client group, if you will. You can find an organization that speaks to you and just learn more about it. Organizations, I've peripherally been involved with nonprofits long enough to know that if you have time to give, an organization will take that time. And through that time, whether it's just attending a few meetings, whether it's giving a free webinar or a free in-person event at a church, talking about estates and trust, talking about estate planning, talking about immigration concerns and immigration development, whatever it may be that you know about, community wants to hear about it. We are lawyers because what we do helps people, not just people in certain places, it helps people. So finding an organization is one option, or two, and this is something that's easily done. This is an advice I got. I didn't come up with this myself, but at a conference not too long ago, there was a gentleman who had become wildly successful. He's a PI attorney out of Dallas, and didn't do any marketing. He, hung his own shingle. He and a partner hadn't done any major marketing, and we're looking at, do I spend a ton of money on SEO? Do I spend a ton of money on pay-per-click? All these things. He said, you know what? I said, I know people. And if I don't know people, I'm going to meet people. And so he said, I'm going to invite people to lunch. And twice a week is when he started. I'm going to have a lunch meeting with someone, with an attorney I met at the courthouse, with someone from law school, with someone who's not affiliated with law. And through those lunches, he made you're eating lunch with someone, you're going to have something to talk about. He's making a connection on more than a professional level. And what ended up happening is when that individual had a need, they thought of him. And it kind of, snowballed into a word of mouth type, I am here, this is what I do, but I've also made a direct connection with you. So getting out of your office, whether it's through organization, through something that you're passionate about, or just making connections with other human beings. Society and the way life is moving is making it so convenient for us to not connect. We have social media. I can tell you what all of my friends from high school are up to, and I haven't talked to them in about 20 years. And that makes me feel like I'm connected to them, but it's not real connection. So making those real connections, starting small or starting big, make them. Those are what are going to not only help you in their business, but are going to help you just in life in general. We are our connections. We are our community. And it's going to pay dividends.
Yeah, there's a book, I haven't read it yet, but it's Never Eat Lunch Alone. And
I heard of it.
I would hazard a guess the lawyer in Dallas probably read that, because I'm a firm believer in connecting and inviting people to lunch and trying to have as many in-person connections as we can, especially after COVID, because I do think it became very convenient for people to connect virtually instead of in person. And it's nice for things like this. I don't think I would be able to be doing this podcast if I had to do them all in person, but it is certainly something that can cause us all to be less truly connected. And
Absolutely.
Speaking of connections, one thing you do to connect is you're in a band, Tropics. Tell us about that.
So my father's a musician. My whole entire life, my house has never been quiet. There's always been music playing. He's had a variety of bands throughout the year. When I was a baby, I think it was like a 12-piece band doing mainly Spanish language music. So I mentioned we're from Puerto Rico, so salsa, merengue, bachata, cumbia, lots of percussion, lots of trumpets. And just growing up, there was always music. I loved music. I played violin for a hot minute, and that's not my claim to fame, but I loved music, and I really got into singing. And I remember growing up, my dad would encourage me, but not encourage me. And I'm not even, that doesn't make sense, but he would, that's great. He'd never say you're a terrible singer, but to me, I'm like, Dad, you have a band, put me in the band. I want to sing. I want to do all these things. And it was very kind of, almost very subdued enthusiasm. And when I finished my first year of law school, I'll never forget, my dad's like, all right, you're on track with your life. How would you like to, rehearse so you can start singing in the band? And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? And he's like, I didn't want you to fall in love with music. I'm a musician and I have a job, but I didn't want that to be your fallback. I wanted you to have something and for this to be your second. And in hindsight, I appreciate that. But that's where it started. Right after my first year of law school, that was in 2005. All the songs I already knew, started singing, gigs, suddenly I had gigs in my life. So we'd, perform at weddings and birthday parties and outdoor events here. There's a annual Latino Film Festival, and they have a big concert. And that was in 2005. And here we are almost 20 years later. The band's become a little smaller, so it's a 5-piece at most, but my husband sings and performs in the band. My dad's still there. My mom will occasionally come and do backup vocals when she's not watching our kids so that I can sing. But it's been a great, I call it the best second job, if you will. But also, especially now that I do exclusively immigration law, and I'm fully bilingual and bicultural, many of my clients now can relate to me as not only Laura the attorney, or not Laura, the person, but Laura the singer, Laura who sings the songs I like and who I've seen out at concerts. And, oh, I know her. Oh my God, my attorney, we had a festival in November, and dePaz Cabrera Immigration Law, we had a table there and all the girls came out. And then the band was singing for an hour. So I remember I had my dePaz Cabrera t-shirt and then I changed real quick and got on stage to sing. And I could tell a few of my clients and people who I had just interacted with at the booth are looking up like, wait a minute. And
wait a minute, my lawyer can sing too.
It's fun to see. It's a great kind of, it's a great icebreaker, when a client comes in and like, I saw you on stage or I saw you performing somewhere, or that's, I could see people like, that's my attorney and I'm up here singing and, moving some maracas. But it's fun. It really is a way for me to tap into my love of music, to tap into my family and keep that family kind of connection. As I mentioned, I'm very, very tight with my family, but to also keep in touch with that cultural and heritage aspect of who I am as a Latina woman from Puerto Rico. We are very musical as a culture. So being able to perform that and keep that is really, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome, Laura. Well, finally, this being the More Than a Lawyer podcast, what does being more than a lawyer mean to you?
I struggle with this because I just had a conversation not too long ago about work-life balance. And I said to someone, I said, for me, and I feel very privileged to be able to say this, I truly enjoy what I do. Is immigration law hard? It is. And are there losses that make you feel so defeated because you can't win every case? Absolutely. But I genuinely enjoy the practice of immigration law. I enjoy owning my own firm with the, bumps and, things that come with having to do all the hats. But to me, more than a lawyer means finding the way to be who you are, to have your identity as a lawyer, as all the hats that we wear as human beings. In my case, I'm a lawyer, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a Junior League past president, I'm a secretary on AILA, all these things that you have to do, and really finding a way to be a lawyer, but at the same time be everything else and harmonize with it and never lose sight that one is not necessarily better or worse than the other. My identity on any given day can be mom, it can be daughter, it can be lawyer. I think the most success, to me, my personal definition of success is to when I think of myself, I don't think of it in any of those specific hats, but that my being is all of those things at once, competing with each other all the dang time. My obligation to mom and my needing to be home and soccer games and whatnot, and my desire to stay at the office and really work on this because I enjoy what I'm doing. It's a constant struggle. But I think more than a lawyer means being all of the things, lawyer being a huge part of it, but as some of the whole, not as what defines you, and to use your position and the privilege that we have as lawyers, as advocates, to broaden your impact into not just the success of yourself or your law practice or whatnot as a lawyer, but to broaden that impact in the way that I feel that as lawyers we are uniquely positioned to do. This sounds very cliche, but to leave this world better than when we found it, and to use that blessing that we have as lawyers to be able to do that and to always work towards that.
Amen, sister. Well, thank you so much, Laura dePaz Cabrera, for joining us on More Than a Lawyer. We appreciate your insights, and good luck tomorrow as you are helping save the world and make it a better place.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege to be here. Thank you.
You've been tuning into More Than a Lawyer with your host, attorney Christy Crow. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, www.jinxcrow.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.